let's assume that this investigation is about to go to court, and an investigator has asked you to glance over it to see if you can replicate the analysis. You ultimately find that this chart is incorrect and mention that if this was to go to court, it would actually fail scrutiny. Therefore, your job as an investigator, as a part of this challenge, is to understand and determine the ownership of key externally owned addresses, or EOAs, and to use critical thinking to assess the situation and determine what you believe is happening within this case. So let's dive into the June Crypto Tracing Challenge solution. So here's the problem. We have potentially subpoenaed these yellow addresses. We need to determine if that's correct or not. So the first thing I'd like to start with is the fact that if you trace through a hot wallet, immediately you are going to be wrong, because the moment that you see a hot wallet, you should be thinking to yourself that prior to it is a deposit address. Okay, and once you see a deposit address with a hot wallet, there's a potential change of ownership. Do not follow assets straight through an exchange unless you have reason to. Maybe you've subpoenaed an exchange and they've given you information to say yes, that 8.37 SOL went straight out into another address. Unless you get that, do not follow through hot wallets, and therefore we can rule all of these out. Every single one of these is incorrect to begin with. That's the first rule of thumb. Now we've got to try to figure out exactly what went wrong, because even now I got a lot of answers to say we should subpoena all of these, which is also incorrect for this particular case. So let's take a look. Let's go right back to the start. Okay, so 24.06 SOL stolen. That is the target assets. If we're going to do a freeze, that's the amount that we're potentially going to request for that freeze. Everything else is just noise and unrelated. Now granted, if you've got a group of victims and all of their assets come to this hacker address here, great, include them as well. But for now, for this one, we have one victim with 24.06 SOL has been stolen. So we're going to remove the noise. Okay, so with that in mind, we've got to look at what's happening in the attacker address. Okay, so to do that, we're going to open up the Explorer, and you can use Etherscan for this. You don't need to use MetaSleuth. If you do decide to use MetaSleuth, there is a 10% discount if you use code intelligence on chain, all one word, all uppercase. Whilst we're on the subject, right now we have a discount for our courses up to 66% off. That's like 2/3. You're not going to get a better deal than that. So if you've been interested in our courses, now is the time to grab that. Okay, so let's continue with the trace. So we've got 24.06 in, which is this line here. I've put it in descending order, which is the orange line down. That means the newest transaction is at the top, the oldest one is at the bottom. So everything prior to this transaction, we know that we can remove. We're not interested in it, at least for this case, because we only have one victim and we want to freeze the assets that belong to the victim. So now what do? We need to apply a methodology here. If you know what this methodology is, please add it to the comments below. Is it first in, first out? Is it last in, first out? What methodology are you going to use? So now that you've written the comment, it is actually LIFO, last in, first out. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to leave a memo, and we definitely have 24.06 SOL, and that is going to be using LIFO. So last in, first out, which essentially means that we use the last in. Now there's a 0.1 here, 0.11, so we need to take that into account. But besides that, we've got 15.79 plus 8.38. So we keep these in, okay? We are definitely following both of these assets, but we are going to need to split this out, okay? So I'm going to just make some more notes. So up here, we're tracing 8.38, also using LIFO. In this bottom one, we need to make sure that we write 15.79 because that's the amount of assets, according to our methodology, that we can trace. Okay, so now it's very clear what methodology we're going to use and how the assets have been split. Again, this may unlock further information, but for this particular case, especially if we're going to give this information to an exchange, we don't want any additional noise, so we can remove that. All right. So let's begin here with the simplest one, which is the top one, 8.38. which is this one here. It goes out to an address over here. Just 2 transactions, one in, one out. That's pretty straightforward. So again, we're using last in, first out. Let's follow the assets. We move across into a deposit address. Now, a deposit address is typically identified because it is the address prior to a hot wallet. Okay, so I like to change colors just to highlight ownership. So exchanges I always call a purple. So we can subpoena this one, but now we need to look a little bit further down. So we used 15.79. We've got that coming in through LIFO, last in, first out. So now we need to check what's going on in here. We need to load all the data. Again, we need to sort it into descending order. So we get last in, which is this one, because there's only one in, and first out. So we're following 15.79 out to this address here. So if I just put that in order again, and I deselect everything, we've got the last in, first out. They're the only ones that we want to show at this point. So we are still following the 15.79. We're still using LIFO. Everything else that passed through this address is not related to our specific case. So even though all of these deposit addresses here, which belong to KuCoin, are most likely linked to the same bad actor, the one that if we was to take this case to court, and good luck with that because KuCoin never respond to subpoenas, they're pretty terrible at that actually. But let's say they were able to support our case, this would be the address that we target. Okay, these others are unrelated to our victim's address. Okay, so we can get rid of them. So what about ownership? I would say, based on what we're seeing here, I would probably say that these 2 addresses here that are black are probably owned by the same bad actor. So that's it. If you have any questions about this particular exercise, please drop them in the comments below. We'll get back to them ASAP. Alternatively, if you want to take part in these crypto tracing challenges, because we hold them each month, check out the link in the description, join our Discord server, and get the challenge role. There you'll be able to see all of the previous challenges and any future challenges as well. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this, if it was educational for you, if you learned something, please like it, please share it. It goes a long way to helping us grow our channel. Thank you. Take care.